Welcome to the Nonprofit Edge, a podcast series to promote purpose in practice. Each week, this webinar series features an extraordinary individual that provides valuable and impactful services, helping to transform the capabilities of their nonprofit clients. Join us as we explore a variety of topics, all vital to the success of nonprofit organizations. Learn and grow from the experience and expertise of our featured guests. Without further delay, let's introduce you to the host of the Nonprofit Edge podcast series, Chris Looney.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nonprofit Edge, the podcast where we explore the ideas, innovations, and leadership strategies that help nonprofits succeed in a changing world. Each episode brings forward leaders who are shaping the future of our sector and offering insights that help organizations strengthen their impact. Today, we're joined by Howard Pearl, CEO of CARS, a social enterprise that stands at the intersection of nonprofit mission, entrepreneurial strategy, and sector-wide impact. CARS is a 501c3 organization that operates vehicle donation programs and more on behalf of thousands of nonprofits across the country. And their model is unique because they are a nonprofit enterprise owned by a nonprofit designed exclusively to support other nonprofits. What a novel concept. And through innovation, efficiency, and a focus on service, CARS helps organizations generate sustainable revenue while also expanding donor engagement in creative ways. And we've been doing a lot of conversations these days about alternative revenue opportunities for nonprofits. This is such an important one. So Howard brings a strong background in business leadership, nonprofit strategy, and social enterprise management. And his work really highlights how organizations like CARS can strengthen the financial resilience of nonprofits and provide essential shared services that many organizations could not build on their own. And this conversation is important for any nonprofit thinking about sustainability, revenue diversification, partnership models, or the power of mission-aligned enterprises. Howard, welcome to the show, and thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. That was quite an introduction. I feel I should be getting paid more.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, you never know. You do a good job on this show, and we'll see what happens. No, I'm kidding.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me. It's a
of
joy
course.
to
Yeah,
join
I'm
you
glad you're with us. I've been excited about this conversation, so let's jump in. But before we focus on CARS, which there is a lot to talk about, and I'm excited to do that, I would love to talk a little bit about your leadership path, which is so important to Fulcrum and to this podcast. We really focus a lot on nonprofit leadership. So can you share a little more about your leadership journey and how you found your way into the nonprofit and social enterprise spaces?
Sure. It's no secret. I ended up here really by accident, to be honest. I find many other nonprofit leaders that I run into these days that are, in my age bracket seem to have wound up here also, not necessarily by chance, but more by mischance. I had a fairly, normal career beginning. I worked for various different companies, different sizes, trying things on. I was fairly entrepreneurial when I was young. I had a couple of small businesses that worked. But ultimately, you've got to find yourself into a larger business environment in order to really understand how things work. They're the guys that teach you that systems make sense. The process really is the underpinning of any successful enterprise. You can be as creative as you want, but if you don't have infrastructure upon which to lay your clothing, you're never going to look good, right?
Awesome.
So I did my stint at some of the larger corporations, and then I ended up. Long story, the first sort of really big success, I wound up with a communications firm that I built, and ultimately we were able to take that public. Some great clients, Ford Motor Company, Johnson and Johnson, Ralph
Oh,
Lauren
those small little guys.
Converse. Some of the smaller guys, yeah, and Well, we didn't have those in the beginning. I can tell you, we were crawling.
Good.
Like you remember grade 8 when you had to crawl up the ropes for the first time?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
we were crawling up the ropes for a long time, but ultimately we got we got one breakthrough client, and life turned pretty decent for us, and ultimately I was able to take that public and do very well, and ultimately took a public exit out of that. Because at a certain point, business becomes so big that you're not in the business of business anymore. You're in the business of administering the business of business. And if you're
Fair.
a guy like me that likes to be in the trench and do stuff, it gets a little, stagnant. You want to be, if you want to be in a leadership role, you want to be in a company that is dynamic, that is growing, that allows you to go out and find new opportunities, and that allows you to solve problems and bring solutions. I mean, that's what's exciting about it. And
Yeah.
so anyway, I eventually wound up, again, sort of a crazy long story. It's easier just to go to the LinkedIn and read all the details. But I ended up
Yeah,
in
well, you could give us the highlights.
I ended up in China um, on this project. After I took the exit, I was looking for something interesting to do, and I wanted to stay, business on my own. And I ended up creating a new category in the off-road rough terrain vehicle space called Rhino
Oh my
Rough
gosh.
Off-Road. We created these rough terrain vehicles that basically would go where no other rubber tire vehicle would go, and they ended up being used by a number of different organizations, paramilitary organizations, government organizations. We tried to make them like a sport utility for a bit, like the Rhino by Yamaha. We had a joint venture marketing program with those guys, and anyway, I ended up going to China. Long story to build these things, and I spent 4.5 years over there building a fairly large facility that could crank these things out. And I when I came back from China, I went to work with a friend of mine who had been an early partner and had taken an exit from the rough terrain vehicle space with me. And he had gone into, both of us, strangely enough, had come out of sort of internet, um, the internet world when it blew up. Our communications firm concentrated on that area. Strangely enough, I'd asked a couple of PhD students to come in and review what the internet was going to do to us, not for us, but to us. We needed to be in a
Hmm.
defensive posture. And we had two groups in, and eventually what happened was we said, we want you working separately. Well, kids being kids, they decided they would work together. And so they came in beginning of September, and what they presented was, we decided you didn't need to know what the internet was going to go do to you. So we've combined into one unit, and we're going to show you what the internet can do for you, and changed our perspective 180 degrees. And we grew that business and did really well with that. So I learned some lessons from that. There's value in keeping your ear to the ground with people that are sort of younger, people that are in and coming out of university, that have a far better
Good.
beat on what's going to actually happen. It's already happening. They're just going to fill in the vacuum. But anyway, I came back from China, and I was looking for something to do, and my former partner had gone back into into the software space, and I joined him for a short period of time as a chief operating officer while I either was going to look around or stay, or we were just going to build it into megacorp, and that was fine. While doing that, I got tapped on the shoulder uh, by um, an associate that used to find me interim work. I used to get bored quite often, and even while I was still running my own business, I was fairly large. I was able to step away, for 60 to 90 days and do some interim um, work. And anyway, she came to me one day and said, "Look, I've got this thing I want you to look at." And I said, "Well, I'm not really interested and focused here." And she reminded me that she'd done me a favor or two along the way, and was saying, "Well, there's a quid pro quo here, Howard. Step up." So I went to the interview for her, and they presented this car donation-y thingy that made about as much sense to me as going into the sausage business. It didn't it didn't it didn't ring with me at all. But I agreed to take the interview. So I went to the interview and I met a very interesting fellow there. What should have been a 20-minute interview and maybe book a second one, turned into about an hour and change of really great dialogue. And in the end, I said, look, I don't really want a job, but I think I know what you need. So if you give me a 45 to 60 day, agreement, I will go in and I will exit the existing chief executive and I will bring you in somebody that will be effective, somebody who's got some nonprofit experience, someone who understands, you guys have a way of doing things that, business guys like me, we don't. We don't go for consensus. We manage our board. Our board doesn't manage us. Things along those lines. Um, and he laughed. He said, "Oh, that's what you're going to do for me. That's not how it works."
Right, right,
I said, "Oh,
right.
okay." Anyway, one thing led to the other, and they adopted the plan. They said, "Yeah, you can. It would be great if you could do this with us and for us." And um, I had somebody that I thought was going to be just perfect for the job. So I got here, and so that was a 45 to 60 day assignment. And I'm just looking at my watch. My 60th day passed uh, just over 10 years ago.
So 10 years, 60 days. Got it.
Uh,
All right.
Two
Well,
things happened.
yeah, okay. Tell me.
One, the people, the staff that was here, with very, very few exceptions, most of them are still here. That's
Uh-huh.
another
Uh-huh.
100
Good.
or so.
Good
But
news.
um, but moreover, it didn't take but a week for me to kind of fall in love with the people.
Yep.
It took 2 or 3 more hours for me to fall in love with the mission. When I finally recognized what they were actually doing here, how we did it seemed less relevant than what we
Mhm.
were doing. And I was consumed by the mission.
Cool.
Um, and I can tell you, looking back over the last 10 years, would feel more like 10 minutes. Nothing that I've experienced, uh, save the first few hours after a public exit. Um, when you're looking at the draft,
Right,
um,
right, right.
nothing has been as fulfilling emotionally, spiritually, professionally, than being able to provide revenue, much needed revenue to just under 11,000 nonprofits across this country.
Yeah.
We have the wonderful opportunity of working with all sizes of nonprofits, from American Red Cross to, one person, uh, Catholic charity, one guy working in a basement,
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
small community, or a three-person organization that, looks after animal rescue, but only if they're spotted and have three legs.
Yeah.
It gets
Of
that
course.
granular sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and so here we are today with a number of products. And what's even more unique about what we are is, as you were introducing, who we are a social enterprise. And so I espouse often, when I have the opportunity, to nonprofits that they need to start their own social enterprise. It's not that difficult. And like us, this social enterprise just started off by, some couple of people occasionally dropping off their used cars that they didn't want to sell or trade in the parking lot of our parent. And it grew. And then one day the local public media partner, the NPR partner, said, "Hey, we think we'd like to do that." And they found out about it because we were advertising on their radio station. And they
Yeah.
said, "Well, we'd like to do that. Do you think you could do that program for us as well as doing it for yourself?" They
Yeah.
gave it a thought and
Oh,
said, "Well, let's try it."
Yep.
And that was the first NPR station. That was 27 years ago. And today we do 600 and some odd nationalized radios, as in NPR and PBS stations across the country. And they're just one group of our many customers and clients. We call them partners because our relationship with them is unique. If you're a 501(c)(3), it costs you nothing to work with our program, and the ROI is
Yeah.
very high.
I was going to ask how the program works. Like, can you just share a little bit about how you work with nonprofits and how the social enterprise works for everyone's benefit?
Yeah, the only reason we're called a social enterprise is because we're a nonprofit that's specifically been put together to fund a nonprofit.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So we, as a nonprofit, sign contracts with our partners that actually is a partnership agreement. It costs you nothing, period. And we provide all the marketing materials and the support and the training, period. And the reason we go in as partners is because if you use a professional fundraiser like a consultant, there's a lot of additional reporting. It's a very expensive process. And, our feeling was we are a nonprofit. We understand your problem. The reason we're the largest we're doing what we do in our sector is because we really, as a nonprofit, understand you. We really do understand that every dollar counts. We do understand the challenges with regulations. We do understand what the mission is, and we understand the power of the mission. We understand that the people who come to work in nonprofits are not the same kind of people that go to work for a fuel oil company or a gas station or even an office manager in an accounting shop. We really are. I say we because I think I've assimilated at this point, but we are cut from a different bolt. That squeezing the last nickel out of something isn't necessarily the way it ought to be. We turn over capital, weekly. We don't think we should be keeping your money and arbitraging your money, for our use when we're busy raising capital for you. So we go to market as partners, which means we split the revenue that comes from that in a particular way that we decide. In our case, it's generally an 80-20. But we also are very different from a lot of our competitors because we go net, meaning if this is just on the vehicle donation program, but let's assume somebody donates a vehicle. They don't donate it to us. Nobody knows who we are. We're B2B only. If you're Bob Jones Charity, then you promote Bob Jones Charity. We'll create a landing page for you, and on your webpage you'll put donate here, and it'll go there. We answer the phone. You have a phone number that is answered. Bob Jones. We don't answer cards. Nobody needs to know who we are. We're not promoting us. We're promoting
I
you.
see. Yeah, that's great.
We need your brand to be bigger and better and larger and more helpful to people, not ours. So that's one place where it generates. We want people, and we market, and we help you market so that people are aware of who you are, and we understand how to manage your donor base and help you work with that donor base. And in some cases, we have a lot of large and well-known partners that even allow us to work with some of their most important donors, some of their high net worth people. Because in addition to vehicles, we also do real estate. We do stock donations. We have a roundup program that's really geared at younger people to sort of get them into the idea of doing things monthly.
Yeah.
And so we provide these programs, and we go to market, and we split it. And so if for example, somebody donated a vehicle to you, and we sold the car for $1,500, and there was $500 worth of expenses against it. And what are expenses? Well, towing, maybe some minor repairs, whatever is involved in
New tires.
Yeah, whatever is in there, because we'll do some minor repairs in order, because running vehicles always get you more money, right? So we whatever it is.
I see.
But we we want to keep those expenses down. And the way we do that is we share in those expenses, right? We make it net. So those expenses we share, which means if we're doing an 80-20 split, we it's costing us 20% for those repairs because we're not going to get 20% of the 1,500. We're only going to get 20% of the $1,000 because that's what's left, right? So it's to your advantage. But again, we can do that as a nonprofit partner. If we were private, we would be giving you a gross deal, and you would be underwriting those repairs on your own. So there's $1,000 left. If we've got an 80-20 split going, then you get $800, no load, that's all yours, nothing more you have to do. And we take $200 out of the $200, we run our business. $100 basically, goes towards our operating costs, and the other 100 would be surplus. And at the end of the year, that surplus, well, through the course of the year, we send all of our surplus over to JFS San Diego, where we run a very large social service agency. We have 9 parking lots, safe parking lots for people that are homeless, that are living in their cars. These are safe parking spaces. Single women and family in one lot, and there's 8 lots for other people. One of them 24 hours
Wow.
at nighttime. But there's food programs, thousands of meals a day that are cooked in our kitchens and given out, food mobiles, and that's what JFS does. It's a fairly large organization, 450 odd staff, and so on. And we're another 150
Yeah.
folks. And that's kind of what happens.
Yeah. Well, tell me from anecdotally from your partner organizations, what they share with you that are highlights for them. Why they're enamored with cars. Why they like the program so much. Why they continue to maintain the partnership with you. What are some of the reasons why that relationship continues?
The only reason you wouldn't, as a nonprofit, do business with us,
Yeah.
other than just don't like us for some reason, is you have an allergy to free money.
Well, then why, then conversely, why is it that so few organizations on a relative basis are in the sort of car marketplace or some of the other items? So few are in the donation space.
Well, you mean why aren't more people doing car donations?
Yeah, I mean you just said, sort of like
We
you're
just
allergic
haven't
to free
gotten
money
to them
there.
yet.
Okay, well that's fair. So, what I guess what would you suggest a nonprofit organization do to vet this opportunity? Like what would you recommend that they do? Because, it's not something they're going to have to evaluate whether the opportunity makes sense for them or not. They're probably going to have to push it up through their board or figure out if this is an additional revenue stream that they want to pursue because everything takes a little bit of time to make happen. Is this time that they can invest? So walk me through that process.
Okay. Here's a really good story. We one of our good one of our great partners, we love them, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Who
Hmm.
doesn't love St. Jude, right? They raise about 3.5 or 6, maybe a little less than that, billion with a B, dollars a year. Our program provides somewhere south of $5 million to them, depend on the year, plus minus. Yet they inform us from time to time that they consider us to be, a nice tier 1 partner in the corporate partner space, and so on and so on. And so I said to the person who manages our relationship with them, why is that? Like, we're not even a rounding error on a rounding error.
Right. Yeah, good point.
So why are we considered? And she said to me, it's interesting that you don't see it from our eyes, through our eyes. And I said, well, explain it. And she
Yeah.
said, it's the same equation you look at in any business, ROI. She
Okay.
said, our ROI on the money we get from you, is, in the low 90s. It costs us no money for the money you give us.
Hmm.
All we have to do is track the ACHs and account for them. That's it. What do we have to do? You provide us with the marketing materials. So we have a person, that has to see that that we use the material. So we do go to market. So we do have some expense, but it's not even a full-time equivalent. It's just a part-time job for somebody. And really the most consistent thing we have to do is do the deposits. And we've done some, we same thing with somebody like Shriners. We've done a lot of real estate for Shriners. They let us deal with their high net worth, donors, even because they've discovered we can do it easier and better. Most nonprofits don't even want to do real estate because they don't want the liability, the tax liability, the potential somebody crawls over a fence and breaks a leg and so on. We've got a program that the property that's donated to you, not just to you, never even goes into your name. You just get the
Okay.
check when it's all done. So we found some very creative, legal, obviously, and proper and appropriate ways
Yep.
to do this, but that you don't end up with any of the liability. So there's no reason why people, would or wouldn't do business, with us. Personal preference, I suppose. There are a couple of other smaller programs. Most of them are gross programs, not net programs, but they're for-profit people. They're auction yards or things along those lines. They're local, but we operate in 50 states. So
Okay.
if you are a large national, you want to be able to draw vehicles from everywhere. You want to be able to draw real estate from everywhere. You want to be able to, you want to be able to donate and accept donations of stock from anywhere. And then we do the smaller local people, like the local radio stations the faith-based stations or NPR and so on. And so uh, there's no particular reason, unless it's either political or you just don't like us, or for some reason you feel, oh, vehicle donation space, that's beneath us. We get that sometimes. Oh, that's not the sort of thing we want to be associated with. But it seems good enough, for most of the majors. Again, Sierra Club Foundation, Kidney, they look at those seven-figure monies at the end of the year, and we do everything, including writing the thank you note and putting it in the mail for you. You literally, it is a literal turnkey program. Um, the vehicles are probably our biggest product. We do, but I don't know, probably what 120, 110,000 vehicles a year. We do
No, that's amazing.
10, about 10, 12,000 vehicles a month, depending on the month. You need a
Yep.
really long driveway to park those. Uh, but the truth is, we have liquidated we've liquidated assets. Everything from corporate jets to robotic dogs.
A lot
In
of
fact,
dogs.
I have a robotic dog over there on the floor. It's sleeping at the moment, uh, but 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 uh, but we got it in. Somebody donated it to the Civil Air Patrol, and I said, we're going to keep it and use it at trade shows, and so we've kept it, and it's a lot of fun. Um, but you'd be amazed at the stuff people we because we're sort of the big dog in the arena. We have municipalities that call us up and we get 25 to 250 trailers that they have on site that they use during floods and emergencies and
Right,
COVID,
right.
and liquidate those as well. We get a lot. We have a unit here that specializes in collectibles. Like we'll go out and help you hustle up. We got a 57 Chev. We did a special auction for St. Jude, 85,000 bucks for that. This year we're going to auction off I think it's a 1939 Tudor, uh, but it's all rebuilt underneath. It's like a modern car, but the interior and exterior is like totally 1939. It's gorgeous, just gorgeous. Two-tone maroon and cream. Oh my God, it's It's like butter. It's just beautiful. Anyway,
Really like cars.
well, I like how enthusiastic people get over cars. And the other thing is this. Look at the other side. Look at the corollary to this, right? We're taking assets, you know, and giving them, repurposing them. Like, we're strange people. Our car gets to be 50, 60, 70, 100,000 miles. We're like, my God, 100,000 miles, this thing's going to fall apart. 125,000 miles, it's got to go. It's got to go. So we get cars routinely 90,000 miles on, right? Those things are good for 250,000 miles before you have to do any major work on them if you look after them a little bit. Okay, you got to put brakes on the things, you got to put tires on them, and so on.
Right.
But we can get those things into into a marketplace where low income people can afford them, and for them it's a new luxury vehicle. And sometimes we see these things going to dealers that specialize in selling to multiple families one vehicle and helping them understand how to administer it and operate it, um, so that they can they do the groceries for everybody and drive the kids to all the kids and so on. So
Sure, 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 sure.
repurposing these things, which is important. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea that the ecosystem that you're creating um, includes this element of eliminating waste, right, and repurposing. So that I see as a benefit. I love the fact that it's two nonprofits helping each other, and I love the fact that both of you have clear community benefits, like your partners benefit their clients, their communities. You have your own sort of end of the line charity that you're supporting as well. So it just seems like such a win. Are there in your space competitors, organizations, a lot of them that are for profit that work with nonprofits?
There are some. They are mostly regional. There are for-profit nationals in the space. One actually called National. Um, uh, we actually work in concert with them. We manage their property program. Um, we also use some of the same auction yards, and we both have equity in some of the same auction yards. Very
Okay.
a good group. Sometimes we'll work together, and there are a couple of regional programs. I know up in Colorado they work with a local wrecking yard, that have auctions and they pick up the cars locally. On a national basis, there are we're about the biggest that you get really. The only other one you hear about, of course, is the one with the you'll forgive me, obnoxious jingle. Um, the cars for kids, but you hear less and less of them these days because they're having some problems. We've had some legal issues in a couple of states, and they're working through those. But they do that for
Yeah,
themselves.
what are what
They don't do it for other people.
I see. They're doing
So
it for themselves. Can you
yeah,
can you describe what that means?
donate your car to us. We sell it and we keep all the money. And we spend a lot of that
Okay.
money on advertising in order to get more. And then we use it for the
Okay.
programs that are our programs. Whereas we are basically no, we're not. We are helping you to solicit people to donate to your nonprofit, but we'll just handle all the process for you and the liquidation and then turn the capital back over to you. So,
Yeah.
and knock on wood, my parent is 111 years old, I think this year, 111, 112, somewhere in that. We're 27 years, and without a knock on wood, without an issue, without any problems or legal issues or anything along those lines. We're very process driven. We were talking about process in the beginning. We're an ISO certified shop. We've got integrity awards from the BBB, and I think all these things are important. And so what we try to do is based on the unreasonable hospitality theory. Um, Basically, we just try and do as much of it for you as humanly possible, so that
Right.
we don't we look. we make 20 cents, only when you've made 80.
Yeah.
So, when we're out there helping you to make this happen for your agency and for your organization, the more money you make, the more we make. Yeah, it's the low end, but it's your brand.
Yeah.
Should
Yeah.
be getting
How does your nonprofit organization look different, let's say, than the partner organization that you donate to at the end of the year? So for example, your contributed income probably looks substantially different. Your revenue mix looks substantially different. Does your board look substantially different? Like, what are some of the things that you as a manager of a nonprofit in this social enterprise model kind of would maybe look a lot different than managing a nonprofit where there's more of a reliance, let's say, on donations, government grants, other funding sources?
I don't know that it looks. I don't know that it looks an awful lot different. We do have. I do have a lay board, like everybody else. Um, I tend to want people on my board that are, obviously socially aware, but I'm also looking for people who have had successes in their own business practices. So we may have one or two more business people on that board, but there are also
Yep.
clearly people who are interested in philanthropy, who are interested in being on a nonprofit board. But we do have business issues that we deal with that most nonprofits don't have to. Customer service is a big issue, obviously, as opposed to client service. But I don't see that it's really a heck of a lot different than most other nonprofits. And strangely enough, with no disrespect and with no pejorative overtone, I do believe, that the CEO or an executive director of a nonprofit, I think your primary job is to protect your agency from your lay board. And what I mean by that is, we get people. We have a great board, and I have no complaints about any single one of them. But I have been on boards, on lay boards, and we have had lay board members in the past, who have been problems. They're there for their own ego. They're there because they want to impose their will without
Sure.
without any thought to what's the continuity here, what's the flow, what do we need to be doing, how do we have to be doing this? Look, we're in a really unique position with most nonprofits, and it's a position of privilege, right? We're out here again. Nobody knows who we are, helping you to raise your profile and raise your income. And let me tell you, those weekly check runs, it's a joy to see some of those checks come up here that require counters, signatures. When you start seeing,
Yeah.
some of these two, three, $400,000 checks going out a month to to some of the large organizations, it's tremendous. And by the way, you look at an organization that maybe are two guys, two people, maybe your husband and wife. Again, they're doing animal rescue, or they're running a small soup kitchen for a small group of people, or they've got you know a, a family of 16 cats or dogs at the end of the street that rather than let them run around loose, they've created a bit of a place for them to be, so that they're secure. And they get maybe two or three car donations a year. They get 10, 12,000 bucks. That's their entire annual budget.
Right. I get
So
it.
we, we,
Yeah.
we have to
Well,
deal
and
with each one of them.
this is, yeah, but this is why I'm so interested in the conversation, because it is such a unique proposition in the nonprofit space. And I know there are other organizations that have that social enterprise um, function, even predominantly for their organization, but it's still more rare than it is common. And I love hearing about it.
Wait,
One of the things that we
which is
haven't talked
crazy,
about that I'd be
Chris.
interested to know is how.
To me, that's crazy. I think every nonprofit should have a social enterprise. I don't care. Sell chocolates. Find a service and create it.
Right.
I know
No,
of
I,
other social
I'm I don't
enterprises
disagree. I
doing
don't disagree
doing
with you.
hydroponics. Uh, you know, Look, it's not up to me to sort of reveal this, but you would be surprised. You know, one of the largest producers of lettuce in this country is a hospital chain. They help to fund themselves with large lettuce
I
and
didn't
mushroom.
know. I'm unfamiliar, but yeah, that's great. Well, I suppose the monks back in the day, had to make ends meet selling wine, and
Yeah, but
obviously
selling, as
Paul
you
was a
say.
tent maker. So there's always been social enterprise to selling
But
stuff.
I think
Yes, selling.
I think
Hopefully
we
selling.
need more
Yes, hopefully
enterprise
selling.
in nonprofit. We need more enterprise. We need a little bit. I find that nonprofits even today, and it's almost foreign to think about it, but many nonprofits today still have this social stigma about making money. Um, they're not comfortable asking for money. They're not comfortable, while running a
Yes,
business. Ooh,
you're right.
why? Why, if you believe in the mission, if you believe in what it is you're doing, why, for heaven's sakes, are you
Right.
uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form doing anything and everything it is that you can do to raise capital for your mission? Period. Why? And it's not that difficult, and you don't need a ton of investment.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
start off,
yeah. I
you know, you know, you can start off
Yeah, no, it's
small,
such
and
helpful
build it.
advice and a powerful reminder.
Yeah. Uh, Sorry, was there a question in there? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So, yeah, no, I think our technology kind of jumped on each other. So I'll cut this portion out as well.
Okay.
And I do want to kind of go back. So let me ask a question. So it seems to me that technology has been a major factor in your ability to scale. How has technological advances, wherever you see it, allowed cars or allowed the organization to expand to what it is today?
Well, twofold, really, and then if you'll allow me a minute, we have a new project that will be coming to market here very shortly, which is an incredible AI product that we hope to deliver to the nonprofit community that is sadly lacking in its adoption of AI and competitively priced. And it ends up being a product that's engineered by an amazing software development group and IBM and ourselves. And anyway, coming to a theater near you, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But look, I don't know why people don't sort of understand this. You're running a business the same as any other. The fact that your surplus or your profitability, or call it whatever you want, is used to solve the problem that your nonprofit is designed to solve. So why wouldn't you want the same efficiencies that every other business has? And remember, there's a difference between efficiency and productivity, right? Efficiency is sort of how many people you have doing things and how efficiently they work. An FTE is an FTE. Do I get 10 hours worth of work out of an FTE, or do I get, 8 hours or 7 hours or 6 hours, right? Automation or using the tools, help you get not efficiency, but productivity, meaning I can get the work of 10 people out of 8 if I stop using Excel and start automating my reports, where somebody doesn't have to manually enter them into my software package. Um, Start looking at software that actually talks to each other. I mean, I've walked into nonprofit offices where they've got 13 to 15 different kinds of software that don't all talk to each other. And they've got,
Right,
they use Bob
right,
Jones's, grade 12 student, to tie it all together. And they got, the local guy from the IT shop, that comes and puts their network together. And this is crazy. This is crazy. You're running a proper business and you want to entice people to donate capital to you. You want to be able to walk them into your office and say, look, we're running a modern, efficient operation here. We're not wasting your money, and
Yep.
we're not also running it so cheaply, that we look, like we're falling apart, but we want to use every nickel the right way. Look, there are things you need to be doing in business, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit, that make your business look good and feel good. And so people want to be involved with you. People want to support. They also know that it takes a certain amount. People who have money to give, know the difference between a well-run mission support system and we've sewn it together patchwork quilt. There's too much technology available today. Now, for us, because you cannot even imagine the number of transactions that are involved in a vehicle donation and the problems, that you have with everything from title and retitling, through
Good.
what happens when 2 years later the vehicle goes through a toll booth, and that toll booth has the wrong information, and it doesn't get paid, and the bill goes to somebody who did the car 3 years ago, right? We have to be able to deal with those
Right.
things. So we
You're
so
right.
so
Good call.
yeah. So we automate that. We've got 900 title issues to do a year. Can you imagine? We have two people that handle that because we've built automated systems. We brought proper software people in as we could afford it, and we built the system to help automate as much as possible. And that's what you should be doing. Two reasons. One, you can depreciate that stuff. And two is honestly, it's easier to manage some of the technology than it is to handle the people that decide they're not coming in this weekend because the weather's bad.
Right, right. Amen. I gotcha. I hear you. Well, that's a great explanation of how technology has allowed you to scale. Spend a minute, if you don't mind, just telling me about this next generation product that you're working on, and then I'll have one more question and we'll be on our way. So, what are you doing with AI? How does that work for an organization like yours?
Well, I've done, and I come out of the software, business, as I said before, I, went into the off-road stuff, which was just, I exited and was looking for something fun to do. It just turned into a bigger business than I had anticipated, more by accident again, than by design. But Um, so I come out of the software side of things, and what I've noticed working with the group of people that we work with, which is again pretty vast, um, when we get into their offices, and even some of the bigger guys and some of the modest sized guys, like everybody else in the world right now, other than people that have ridiculous amounts of budget and can have, people looking at this, what I call the consumer electronics companies, Oracle, Microsoft, all the new guys into the business, are selling their wares. And it's so disjointed. Do I use Perplexity? Do I use, Goat? Do I use Genie? Do I use, well, Genie's doing my memos. So I guess that's not the kind of automation, and that's not the kind of AI, we're talking about. We're talking about using AI to solve genuine problems. And uh, whether you're small, again, or large, one of the biggest problems we have in nonprofit is, we tend to pay low wages. So we tend to attract, people that, either can afford to work at low wages, or who are not necessarily, inspiring individuals, but they're wonderful people. So how do we make them more effective? Well, if I've got, proper AI agents that can walk people through what it is they have to do, and tell them how they have to communicate, even maybe down to here are the phrases you want to use when you're talking with, with a donor, um, and or that, even monitor the things that are going on, or the agents that send out the messages, and then, receive them back and move the process along, um, that integrate the donor with your accounting system so that you don't need to be dependent on having two people in there moving numbers back and forth and so on. And I've looked at so many different automated systems, and I don't necessarily want an AI system that basically wraps a big bandage around the 19 softwares that I've already got. I want something that's
Okay.
going to that's going to be seamless and invisible. But more importantly, I want something that can prove to me that it's got appropriate governance and that it's got security. And for that, everybody says, well, you've got to be on the cloud, and the cloud is incredibly expensive. It's expensive to get on it. It's expensive to use the data centers. It's expensive to pay for all of that time. So we have been working with a company that has created a solution, that they've been developing and using, over the last 20 years, on Watson X. Look, there's nobody out there has been doing AI longer or better or more securely than IBM. This is not an ad for IBM, but I've looked at them all. 2 weeks ago, we spent an entire day at the IBM studio, product studio in New York, where, by the way, we also got an opportunity to see a quantum. Oh my God, like what's coming is incredible, right? It's just
Right.
very exciting. So we are first working model is in process right now, and what we are designing, what we're going to bring to the market here, probably within the next 90 days. It'll start to be available in limited availability to some of our people, is a SaaS platform for a product that will be available at very reasonable prices to nonprofits, that will be less expensive to operate on a monthly basis, and that doesn't necessarily have to depend on some of the crazy stuff that's coming from what I refer to as the consumer electronics people.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
effective technology,
I love it.
and priced properly, sold by nonprofit to nonprofits for nonprofits. And the more people that come on the platform, less expensive it's going to be to operate it monthly.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it. Well,
that's where we're headed.
it sounds like an incredibly exciting future for you and for cars. And Howard, just thank you for sharing your insights on the nonprofit social enterprise model and the critical role organizations like cars plays in strengthening our sector. Your work is a powerful example of how mission, innovation, and enterprise strategy can come together to support thousands of nonprofits in a meaningful and scalable way. And to everyone listening, I hope this has been eye-opening for you in the lessons that Howard's shared. And who knows, maybe Cars will be the place that you should check out for your organization if you haven't already. So thank you to all of our listeners for joining the Nonprofit Edge today. If you enjoyed the conversation, please like and subscribe to this podcast. And don't forget that we have two others, Lead for Good and Mastering Fundraising. All of them explore ideas and exciting opportunities with extraordinary leaders like Howard. So until next time, we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thanks all.
Thank you for joining us for the Nonprofit Edge, a podcast series to promote purpose in practice. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation and learned some important lessons from our featured expert. We always want our content to be informative and to position nonprofit leaders to succeed. Please join us again for our next podcast. In the meantime, we wish you all the best and encourage you to learn more about Fulcrum Nonprofit Leadership by visiting our website at www.fulcrumleader.com.